again, YouTube. It's I, Zolon. We are once again having to talk about weapon insurance duping. This time I'm going to explain it. I'm surprised we're still having to talk about this. I really thought this was going to go away, but here we are again. And yeah, let's get to it. So, as we know in Star Citizen, there are a lot of issues, tons of exploits, tons of problems, challenges that the development team are having to work through. This is just a lot of them. Definitely not all of them, but I'm hiding a couple here, such as falling through planets. And if you're ever in FPS missions, sometimes your weapon and whatever just kind of disappears for a moment, and that all sucks. But specifically, I want to go over is weapon insurance item duplication. So this all kind of starts with our good captain, Foxy Loxy. At least that's one of the first videos I seen, and Salty Mike, he had another video that kind of mentions Foxy Loxy without mentioning Foxy Loxy, because I guess he didn't want people to know about the duplicate or the weapon quote unquote duping. We'll get into all this in a bit. But anyways, Foxy Loxy, the whole point here is, I'm just gonna say Foxy going forward, is that this should be known as weapon insurance. And this is a way for you to bring your weapon back if it was to be lost, stolen, whatever. Now, I kind of agree with this statement because it is a way to reacquire, repurchase an item, but I wouldn't simply call this insurance, and I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. So this brings us to Mike. Mike came out with his video saying that this is a huge duplication exploit and is really bad for the game. He really over dramatizes this issue, basically to the point of saying that if you're able to buy guns in Star Citizen, that's just bad for the game because you can have tons of guns and it makes game loops obsolete. Now, I'm also extremely paraphrasing his video here, but from his comments, it just sounds like he just doesn't want people to have the ability to buy items. Now, I'll link both Foxy and Mike's videos in my description. If you haven't seen them, I'm sure you guys have by now, especially if you're watching my video. But, however, during his video, Mike does correct himself, and he halfway through his video, and he puts a more logical take on the topic. But then in other videos, he puts out comments like this, which just makes it once again sound like buying guns are bad. So I think it would be better if he would more clearly and articulated his what he's actually looking for. Sometimes he lacks that nuance, and so it just makes us all kind of rubs people the wrong way, right? So what I think he actually wants is he just wants to make rare items findable only out in the wild. Now, I have a better take on this, especially because the game is supposed to be run as a community, but let's first just talk about what's actually happening here. So let's go ahead and define what an exploit is, what item duping is, insurance, and what a loadout would be. So an exploit, a flaw in the game's code that allows a player to gain an unfair advantage or perform actions that are not intended by devs. Great, that kind of sounds like what we have right now. Item duplication involves a glitch that allows a player to make multiple copies of an existing item you already possess. Now, this kind of sounds what currently is happening, but we'll explain it in just a minute. And insurance is generally something that you have bought along with an item so that if something were to happen, that you can get a replacement of it. And a loadout is a combination of items that are prepared so that way when you go and you purchase something, or a setup, it's pre-filled out in a way so that way when you buy it, you don't have to spend time loading it back the way that you want it to be. This is something that Tarkov recently added to their game to try to help players spend less time in the menus and more times playing the actual game. This is something Star Citizen needs, in my opinion. Okay, so an item in the programming world can look something like this for like a weapon. It will have usually an ID. Older games maybe didn't have that, but games today, especially if they're being tracked by a database, are going to have an ID, and it'll have other stats such as damage, durability, type, if you have it equipped or not. There's a lot of things that can go on here. Now, how this is being done is, so usually weapon duping is you're making exact copies of a weapon, right? You have an item and you do something. So if I think of like Diablo 1 duplication, you have an item and you get an exact copy of the item that you duplicate. It's not a new one that you're re-rolling stats for or requiring. It's an exact replica. So you'll notice for this case, the IDs match from 1 to 2 because it's an exact copy. And I think that's key here. It's an exact copy. Moving on to purchasing or acquisition, this is where it gets, that nuance comes in. Because when you go to a store and you go and you buy an apple one day and you get an apple the next day, you are not buying an exact copy of the original apple that you have in your house somewhere. You have a whole new apple. It's its own entity, right? It didn't just come out of nowhere. It was purchased. So this is what's actually happening, in my opinion, when you go and you hit that repair button to reacquire these weapons, is that you're going and you're purchasing. Now, I'm going to briefly mention things like the railgun, which are currently found only out in the wild, or supposed to be only found in the wild. Obviously, if you hit the repair button today, you could reacquire. You're not making a copy, you're reacquiring a weapon, and it shouldn't be possible. So yes, it is an exploit, right? It's at least a bug, but it is not a duplicate of the one that you own. So what's actually happening here is that you're being able to buy items that you shouldn't be able to purchase. So is this exploit have some negatives to it? Yes. But is this exploit bad for the game? From a very fundamental level, I would say no. This would be something really good from a quality of life perspective and should be considered to be put into the game. And so yeah, so for me personally, I wouldn't call this a exploit. Sorry, not an exploit. Currently, it's an exploit. I would like to see it become a feature, but I wouldn't call it weapon insurance. I would rather it be called, you're purchasing a loadout, right? Because again, insurance would be like something that you bought to the store, you added insurance on top of it. It's like an added fee when you go and you purchase the item originally. What seems to be happening right now is you buy the item, you lose it, and then you have to re-buy that item for its full price. You're not getting a discounted or free, right? You're having to pay full price. Now, it may not seem like full price, but I think that's because in the code, there's probably in one of the fields that the item can have, might be like price of the item, and it's probably defaulted to some value. So anyway, and I mean, yeah, so for me, this is just purchasing a loadout when it has attachments and things, or even when you're adding it to your ship. I would just call it loadout. But yeah, going for how it's implemented today, I think it's a really good feature that should be included. And to be frank, I'm surprised you can't purchase more things via your mobi-glass anyway. It seems kind of weird that I have to run off to some random terminal out there and start you buy something and then you got to run off to another terminal to put it on. There's a lot of running off to terminals. It would make more sense. I have a mobi-glass, purchase it from my mobi-glass, and then go to the terminal to go through my storage. Going through the storage system is kind of a little weird right now too, but it's better than nothing. But anyway, I digress. Moving on. An idea that I would have for how this could all work, though, is that you would be able to purchase it through a mobi-glass, right? You're at some station, you have a catalog of items, hopefully connected to a player market where you can buy items from players. You buy those items, it then generates missions if it's outside of the station that you're in. It generates missions for players to then go find those items, right, from whatever station that they're originally from, or wherever the market is, or whatever. Generates missions. Those players can then go do that mission and bring it to your station, dump it off at the cargo bay, and now I have access to that. Will it take some time? Sure. But I think that's kind of the whole point, right, of this game, is that we're all interacting as a community. And it allows me, while I wait for some player to get all these items, if I don't already have them at the station that I'm loading them with, to then go do something else while that's happening in the meantime. That's kind of how the world works today anyway. You buy something off Amazon, I go and live my life until the package arrives at Amazon, and then I go and use whatever that package was for, right? If I need a new graphics card for my computer, I will purchase it off Amazon and wait. I don't have to go find it out in the wild myself or drive over to the manufacturer myself to go get that graphic card. I can create a mission for someone else to go do. Anyway, but yeah, so it would just be, I think this would be really good for just loadouts, being able to have a way to purchase items at various places, because at the end of the day, you're going to want ships and items all around the universe, right? Um, Going from Pyro to Stanton, like you basically feel, I feels like you need ships waiting for you at Pyro so you can do more stuff faster. Otherwise, you're having to sit around and wait for claim times. So, to give me, in the end, this is just a purchasing bug. It's hardly an exploit that I'm concerned with. Like, it's not a big concern, right? It's kind of a small problem in the grand scheme of Star Citizen problems when there's tons of things that just won't allow you to play the game, right? Elevators not working, 30k issues, your ship suddenly blows up for no reason. Lots of problems in the game. So this molehill is not a mountain, right? Not a big thing. Let's stop making it. Let's stop making a mountain out of a molehill. So going forward, how we should be concerned about issues, really any game that makes it enabled for anyone to play the game, right? Elevators not working, game crashes, unable to retrieve the ship, and then everything else should be below that, right? It's not, someone getting an extra railgun right now is not the end of the world. Someone not being able to play a game is a big problem for Star Citizen, because if players aren't able to play their game, they're not going to have people funding their game. It's just kind of how it is. But yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. If you like what you saw, please subscribe for more content like this. Till next time, see ya.